All right, all right. Good morning, Center for Spiritual Living Palm Desert. Good afternoon, wherever you are, Center for Spiritual Living Palm Desert and friends all over our beautiful planet. Happy Thursday. It's great to be with you. It's a good morning. It's another good day to be together in our virtual spiritual community. We know that our building is temporarily closed down, but our hearts are wide open, and it's such a great opportunity to be together yet again on this glorious day, coming to you live from the Coachella Valley. And I am stoked about my conversation this morning. I love this woman. I've known her. We just were discussing before we came on. Linda Watson, practitioner emeritus. I'm honored to actually call her friend as well. And I'm just very excited about this conversation because I've known her so long. I know the integrity of her work and how many thousands of lives she's affected. She is a practitioner emeritus, lifetime practitioner. Basically, that means she's made. All right. If we're talking about the mob, if we're talking about the mob, she's been made. All right. If we're talking about she can never not be a practitioner again. I love that. She's been doing this spiritual work for over 30 years. I've known her for 18 of those. She's literally touched thousands and thousands of lives through her work, and hundreds of not only our spiritual communities, but on movie sets and medical offices. So she bridges beyond just kind of the spiritual setting and brings the spiritual setting into quote unquote corporate life as well. And she's an extraordinary human being committed to this work, and that's why she is a practitioner emeritus. For those of you that are familiar, she's familiar with kind of the inside information about Centers for Spiritual Living. In 2009, she received the United Centers for Spiritual Living, back then the Jackie Sorensen Professional Practitioner Award, and in 2012, the Practitioner Meritorious Award. Basically, she's a practitioner's practitioner. Emma Curtis Hopkins was the teacher of teachers. Linda Watson is the practitioner of practitioners, I would say. She's trained even a few of our folks at Center for Spiritual Living Palm Desert, some of our licensed practitioners now. So we're very blessed to have her with us. I'm blessed to have you with us. Good morning, Linda. Hi.
Good morning, Reverend Charles.
Good to see you. So where are you joining us from today?
I'm in Southern California. I live in Orange County. I'm at my daughter's and son-in-law's in North San Diego County in Carlsbad, because I have a beautiful little soon-to-be adopted granddaughter who I am here supporting while they go through the process. And so I'm traveling between those two places. Cool.
Well, it's not a very far. What is it? Maybe an hour from you to there, roughly, something like that. Yeah.
Yes.
That's nice and close. Yeah. And I've known your daughter for almost as long as I've known you as well. So I love your family. Your whole family's extraordinary people.
Mm-hmm.
So we caught up a little bit yesterday, and I want to provide a little bit of context here before you get into teaching. I told you as well before we came on live that I'm excited to be taught by you as well. I've always considered you someone that I gain wisdom from, and I'm so appreciative of you coming on board. And to provide a little bit of the context here with I think some of the information that you're going to share with us is that you had something shocking happen in your family. Your son passed away very recently of complications due to COVID, and first of all, I want to let you know that my heart is with you and my heart aches for you and for your family. And I know that, there's oftentimes in situations like this, people try, and the people that are grieving end up consoling the people that are trying to come up with words. And I know there are no words. There's just a heart to be with you. So I know that's, there's a lot of grieving going on the planet right now. And I know, so you're particularly affected by it with the loss of your son. Can you share with us where you are in that process right now? How are you? How's your heart? Thank you for taking time still to be here with us in the midst of that. 1 month is you know, we had a death in our family recently as well. And I know time softened things, but I don't think the pain ever, the thing never really goes away. How are you?
Well, thank you for your loving care and concern. And I don't even have, I don't know, I still keep playing with words to describe this feeling, because I don't really feel inconsolable. I don't find myself rendered incapacitated or any of the things I would have imagined this if this had happened. And I'm not sure why yet. I have a few ideas about why, which I would like to share today, because I think it would be useful in the context of the grief that the entire world is experiencing. You know, my humanity is very sad, and however, because of what I believe in terms of new thought, science of mind, metaphysics, all the beautiful traditions I've been led to over all these years, I truly, there's a place in me beyond my humanity and my human sadness that really knows to a core level that life is eternal, and that our bodies were never meant to live forever and to exist forever. But there is that eternal nature in each of us that is. And I find that to be taking up more space in my awareness, in my body, than the sadness. And I let the sadness be there when it's there. And in my particular situation, you know, I didn't see my son that often, and he had a very troubled soul, and really spent the last 20 years of his life trying to figure out how to be here on Earth. He just couldn't quite figure it out, and that created a lot of despair for him personally. So in a way, and in alignment with everything I've learned, if it is true that we choose our birth, our incarnation, our leaving, our arriving, then there is my intuitive sense says it maybe just got too hard for him. It maybe this was his choice. I don't know. I'm not letting that I'm not using that idea to not feel my own grief and sadness, but there is a certain comfort in having that awareness that there is something in the great mystery of life. There is so much that is beyond understanding. And to your point of saying, trying to tell others about it, I do find I'm spending more time than I had imagined convincing everybody that I'm okay.
Yeah. The assumptions that are made in the midst of the process is fascinating sometimes. You shared something with me yesterday, and if you're willing to, I'm going to put you on the spot. So you in your bio too, and what's true that I know is that you've walked very closely with Gene Houston and Dr. Michael Beckwith. And you when your son passed recently, you said you mentioned to me that you had an interesting conversation with Dr. Beckwith, that he's been incredibly supportive of you. But you mentioned that he mentioned something to you that I think could be powerful for our viewers to hear as well. What did he say to you when you went to him and in the midst of your grief?
Well, he's been my minister and mentor for over 30 years, and I was a part of the first class of practitioners that he taught and graduated at Agape. So we have a very long history, and a very deep path that we've traveled on together. And my son, of course, knew him and felt incredibly proud that he knew someone who was, had the renown of Reverend Michael, and listened to his messages and all those things. So, he was the first person I called, and I texted him, he called me right back. And in speaking about it, he said to me, "What do you need, Linda?" And I heard myself, it wasn't even a conscious thought, but I heard myself say, "I need you to promise me that everything that I've learned, everything you've told me, everything great masters and teachers have said about life eternal and the soul being eternal and that life is everlasting, I need you to promise me that that's all true."
Mm.
And there was a part of me observing myself saying, "Oh my God, Linda, that's, ridiculous. Nobody can promise that." But yet that's what I heard coming from me. And in his, equanimity and anchoredness, he said, "I promise you it's all true."
Mm.
And so when his the plaque for where we're placing his ashes is complete, Reverend Michael will come out here with our immediate family, and we will do something, I'm sure, mystical and magical and very wonderful for what I feel my son, would want.
Right on. I think that when you mentioned that to me, because we both have a mutual affection for Reverend Michael. That did something for me as well. Just because there's a lot of grief happening in the world right now, and so let's collectively, gang, everybody that's listening right now and tuning in, we embrace Linda and her family and their process, the grieving process. And what do you see happening in the world right now from your perspective, spiritually, from a human perspective? What's your take on what's going on the planet right now? What do you see?
Well, I feel very fortunate to have access to incredible wisdom teachers and philosophers and people that have this view that is not the mainstream media view. It's a textured, multi-layered view. And when everything first happened 6 months ago, I had many of my students and clients, say, "Oh my gosh, what are we going to do? What should we do with all this? How do the teachings apply?" And I remember either hearing something or receiving a download of some sort that I actually wrote and that I sent out in a mass email, and I'll read it to you. And what I wrote was, "We're witnessing the end of a civilization that is no longer sustainable and preparing to give birth to a new, awakened, sustainable civilization. Birth is always messy and usually fearful. There's pain, blood, and suffering. The person during the birth who stays grounded and out of fear is the midwife or the doctor. So those of us who can hold and anchor the vibrational field of being centered and anchored and out of fear can serve as the midwives for the new civilization."
Mm. Lovely.
I really
Yes.
felt the clarion call to for my own personal work, and then to be a great encourager to those in my circle to do that work. Years ago, I ran across a quote from Jung and the psychology, Carl
Yep,
Jung.
yep.
And he said, he was asked if he felt this our species would survive. And his response was, "If enough of us do our inner work."
Mm.
And I think that's a piece of what's happening now, that instead of looking to external means, people making decisions, medical people, scientists, although each of them are playing their part, each of us has a part to play as well that is maybe even more significant and more powerful than what's being done in any external way. And I know there are many groups that are gathering, that are meeting, that are meditating, that are stepping into this vibrational field of wholeness. I know that's happening. And that's what I think our part is to play. I I do believe that there are no accidents. Everything is happening by divine appointment.
Mm.
So if we're experiencing a pandemic, whether it was an accident, whether it was, intentional, no matter what, the bigger picture for me is that there's a divine idea for good behind it.
Mm. So you mentioned the midwifing it. So what is the charge? I mean, maybe you already spoke to this. Can you drill down into it a little bit more? What is our responsibility, each one of us, to midwife, period? And what are we midwifing?
Well, I think we're midwifing a new world, a new era. I was involved with a group of people yesterday with my other mentor, Jean Houston, and our group of social artists. And she reminded us that in history, something has to collapse before something else can be built. It's the nature of life. It's the nature of how things work. And so what had happened is we couldn't build something sustainable, something anchored, whether it's climate change or whether it's racial injustice, whatever it was, couldn't be built on top of what was already crumbling, the foundation. So something has to collapse, something has to change in order for something new. And I really believe that's happening. And I believe that everything necessary for the potential for a new world, new civilization, new way of being, reverence for life. That was something that a gift I got from when I studied Albert Schweitzer, when my kids were doing reports and in school, Albert Schweitzer, reverence for life.
Mm.
Don't litter, don't pollute, recycle, be mindful, be sustainable,
Mm.
do your part every day. And if everyone else did that, there'd be a collective consciousness of reverence for life.
Mm. Right on. So what's your message for folks that are afraid right now? That in a collapse, there can be a lot of fear as well. So the folks that are grieving, the folks that are afraid, the folks that are anxious, what do we do? How do we mitigate that? How do we, or are we called to mitigate it? Or are we called to transform it? What do you recommend? And what do you recommend?
Yeah. Well, something was very illuminated to me. I guess it's been a couple weeks now, and I was listening to the Democratic convention speeches, and I was listening to Jill Biden's, the wife of Joe Biden, speak about the tragedies that have that her family has sustained, losses of life, son dying, things. And what she said, and I don't know why it just landed for me the way she said it, is, and we didn't know how we would go on, but we found that how we went on is because we had a purpose. And there's been lots written about purpose-driven life, and I do a whole series of workshops and professional development classes for practitioners around getting clear on your purpose before you can actually see, what is yours to do, what is mine to do. And I realized that someone said, well, how are you getting through this grief, your son's death? And I said, I still feel a powerful, profound inner sense of purpose when I wake up every morning. I maintained all my, I think I rescheduled one of my practitioner sessions. I have several, 4 or 5 of them a day usually. I think I rescheduled one, and the rest I've been engaging in all the other responsibilities that I have, because there's something in me that's not only my human will and my human, it's a purpose in me that's been implanted in my soul, that is moving through me, that is expressing as me. And I I have come to some very profound a profound level of awareness about the power of purpose in our life. So mine tends to, has been to do this work as a practitioner. Everybody has a purpose. Not everybody is doing it on a world stage. One's purpose, you're doing your purpose. You are doing this, webinar every day in ministry. You're listening to what's mine to do. And whether someone's taking care of their child, paying attention to something that they maybe haven't, whether they're mindfully preparing their food, whether they're thinking about how they can be more sustainable with their resources, tending a garden, calling people on the phone to just connect. I've seen so many remarkable stories about what people are doing. The most recent one was a YouTube someone sent me, where this man made this video. He has a camera, a security camera in front of his house, and he was noticing that every day this family with their dogs and their little 3 or 4-year-old on his bike, and the boy would ride onto the driveway. It was a real big flat driveway, and just ride in and ride off. And the guy said, I want to give him something interesting to do. So he built a little, with chalk, he built a little raceway, like a little path for the bike to go on. And the next day, it was all on his webcam. The next day, when he did that, he noticed that the family went, he had a starting point, he had an ending point. And hey, my little baby granddaughter's here. I just want to let her say hi.
Oh,
Look,
yeah.
look at this little girl.
Hi,
Say
sweetness.
Say hi,
Marissa.
Charles. Say, this is our friend Charles. Say hi.
Hi, baby. Hi,
This
baby.
is purpose right here. You see?
Oh, this is purpose. Yep.
Ciao, ciao.
You're a Zoom superstar now. YouTube, you're on YouTube.
So
cute.
this guy, and then the kid was so excited about it. The next day they came and he brought another friend with him, and the guy made the course more and more complex. He said, my friend told me I should use up more of the driveway by making bigger, smaller curves. And the guy, he says, I'm getting more out of this than this little kid. And then it showed other adults on their bikes doing the little course. It showed someone in a wheelchair coming onto the driveway. And it was like, what did this guy do? He took some chalk. He says, and I redo it every time it rains. So, that for that man gave him purpose. To create something for this little boy.
So in this time now, I mean, in life overall, but specifically now, how do we know that we're on purpose? Is there a greater joy? We feel more alive? How do we know we're living on purpose, Linda?
Well, I have my ideas about it. I bet you do too.
That's why you're here. That's why you're here. We want your ideas.
This is me and Charles, you see?
That's why we're paying you the big bucks to be on this program right now.
Well, I think for everyone, there's something in us. There's some sense, if we're attuned, which is again, let me just plug using time for meditation and inner reflection and inner contemplation. The more we can do that, now there's really no reason. Nobody I've met said I don't have time for my inner contemplative practices anymore. That's all changed.
Mm.
So I would say the more we can be in tune, the more we have a sense. The question I like to ask is, and most of us do, what is mine to do? How can I be a beneficial presence? What can I bring that's meaningful and purposeful? Can I share some of my vegetables in my garden with my neighbors? You know, can I just call someone who I never had time to call? I always did these, someone said to me, I always did these group texts because it was the most expedient way to connect with people. And I'm saying, well, call those individual people. I mean, what I was doing was I was looking at my list of people I wanted to connect with, friends from high school and college and others. And I just decided that I made a list and I tried to do one a day, one phone call a day that took maybe 15 minutes, that made such a huge difference in my life and, maybe in theirs.
I'm
I
sure
think,
it did.
I think this is a time also to say, what have I been putting off for myself that brings me joy? People that I know took out their easels and their paints and or got busy with a writing project or redecorating, or we don't always have to be Mother Teresa. I mean, we can create some expanded joy for ourselves, because every person that expands their own vibrational field of that, if we're all one, then that is actually a meaningful gift to all of those that exist with us in this vibrational field.
So purpose has a lot to do with giving, it sounds like. If we're kind of stuck in the cesspool or the stagnation of the COVID, we feel like we can't move or we can't go out to eat or can't gather with our friends or things like this. Some of the things that we feel like, some of the ways maybe that we feel like we're trapped, we can still find ways to give. So what I'm hearing you saying is we got to kind of get out of our own mind a little bit, get out of our own, just the recycling of the way things are, and really have some fun with coming up with different new ideas of how to give ourselves away to somebody else.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's our nature. Our nature is to be giving, to be benevolent. And for many reasons, different for each person, we don't have time, or I don't have anything valuable to give, whatever those ideas are, that this is the time to dip into that creative realm of possibilities. And I've always lived this way. One of my great teachers, who was a dear personal friend of mine, said that she wakes up every day saying, how can I be a benefit? How can I do some good today? And she would just walk around her life thinking, how can I be a blessing? And I remember years ago, something occurred to me when I was in a retail store, and someone had gone beyond her job description to do something for me. And I thought, somebody should know about this. And I, at that time, they used to have little paper surveys, customer service on the counters, and you could take one and fill it out and mail it in. And I just started doing that as a habit, and it became sort of a hobby as I went out into the world, if somebody, particularly in a clerk or retail, whatever it is, I would just fill out those little things, or then when things changed, I would go online to customer service, and I would go back into those stores, and because people, they'd be recognized. I would just acknowledge it. And sometimes in the description of what happened, they would realize I had to put my name down and all those things. And one gal, I remember I went in, she says, oh my God, she says, I got a raise and they brought me up in front of the whole employee, meeting to say
Love
what
it.
we did. And once those things started happening, I said, what does it take? A few minutes of my time to acknowledge someone's presence and their givingness. And when I get, even on the phone, if somebody does something really great for me, I ask for their supervisor and I ask to talk to them. And so I don't know, it doesn't seem to me to take that much. And what I receive from that is a feeling that I guess, being a blessing. I'm finding a way to reflect the blessings that I'm receiving.
Right on. We could all do more of that, raising each other up. I'm curious though. So what if someone gives you bad customer service? Would you want to coach them up? Sometimes people just want to complain. Oh, this person was, George, whatever, was horrible. And, why don't you guys get your act together, rather than some sort of life-giving comment too that can help George or Michael or whoever get better at their game. Do you practice that as well? Is that part of the same thing?
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
only someone like you would ask that question, because that's what you do. You're always looking for ways to raise people up. And yeah, that's, to me, when someone isn't behaving out of their highest nature, who did we think was reaching out for healing? I mean, that's a call for healing. That's a call for love.
Yep. Prayer request.
Yep.
I want to remind everybody out there. Well, I'm not reminding you. I'm telling you for the first time. I'm reminding you, I guess, because Krista said so, who's lovingly producing the show this morning. Any questions for Linda? Any comments? Please, we want to see them. We want to hear them. If anybody out there has any questions or comments, please bring them in. Linda, so you've been doing this work for over 30 years. You've literally worked with over 10,000 people, tens of thousands of people, hundreds of communities and businesses. What do you see? Is there a commonality about the human condition that you tend to work with? What have you seen in your work? What kind of data have you compiled that you notice about the human condition that could benefit our listeners this morning?
Well, I feel that, and my observations have verified, that everybody is seeking the same thing. Everybody wants to feel whole. Everybody wants to feel that they belong, that their life has meaning and purpose. Everybody wants to be loved. And, there's a lot of conditioning that goes on at an early age. And if that conditioning was not life affirming, then someone can really have a lot of trouble with those things as they get older. And I'm always surprised if I meet someone who had a pristine childhood, because I find that everybody is wounded, either from childhood or adult memories. I don't think that in our culture, we're properly trained on how to view life experiences and what to do with them that's life affirming and that's meaningful. We tend to live in a very either or, either it's good or it's bad. And I think it would serve all of us to live in a more of a both and, into a non-dual kind of view and perception of life. That one of my mantras is, oh, I wonder how this is going to work together for good. I mean, because that's my choice. I want to see from that place. I want to expect that. And when I meet someone who is harming others or themselves, or I really try to remember that they were insidiously filled with maybe a lot of untruths and not affirmed, perhaps, in their wholeness, and therefore that's what they have. That's the awareness they have to live their life. And so I feel like any of us, the greatest gift we can give someone is to behold, which is the one word definition I give to a practitioner. We are beholders, to behold someone's wholeness, just to try to get beyond their own finite understanding about themselves, their own wounds, their own misconceptions, to see that in them, to mirror it back to them, and to treat them in that way. So everyone can do that.
Yes.
There's a quote that I really that I love by Rumi. It's about, walk out of your, it's the last line is, walk out of your house like a shepherd. And for me, that means, everyone that you encounter is reaching out on some level for their wholeness, for an awareness of their wholeness. Do your part. Say what you can say, see what you can see. And that's, to me, nobody has to take classes or anything to come from a loving place of loving kindness. And another very powerful part of my journey has been my yoga path. I've been teaching yoga for 20 some years. And that's a path that teaches us to inhabit our bodies, think of our bodies as a temple, and take care of our bodies, and experience life from an embodied sense of what we know, not just an intellectual and mental sense. And that, that I could say lots of things about that.
Right on. Well, it's certainly it's our vehicle, right? It's what's housing us during this human experience. What would you say to this? So over the years, I've heard a number of things about, that we're human beings having a spiritual experience, or the idea is to identify with our spirit. And it seems like in the spiritual walk, our humanity gets denied quite a bit. That the goal is to kind of almost shun your humanity so that you can be this euphoric, I don't know, elevated, transcendent being.
Enlightened.
And yes, enlightened. And one of the things that I've come to is that, and I'm, really interested on your thoughts on this, is that we're here as human beings for a purpose. And that, that's the emotional body. It's the physical body. It includes our desires, the things that we may have to battle with sometimes, whether it be food or substance abuse or these types of things. But it's also the things that make being a human being beautiful, which sometimes includes drama, which sometimes includes, relationship issues and things like that. I've really come to see the spiritual path as a human being as really embracing my humanity while being aware that this is not the end game, that there really isn't an end game within the infinite. What would you say? What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I think in particular, the science of mind, religious science, philosophy has a focus on the mental aspects rather than, and sees the body as sort of a physical condition to be healed, but not necessarily an inherent part of our spiritual work. And because of that, that's been my drive to bring people into embodiment, really.
And that's part of the yoga piece, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. And uh, your what you said in terms of honoring our humanity, I think is very important. And it's coming to the forefront in a very powerful way right now, because the level of busyness and preoccupation with the external realm has been part of why we got to where we are, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And when we do a more internal, we spend more time with in our interior landscape, we do find our humanity there. We do realize that, I mean, by the grace of God, how is anyone ever able to get out of bed in the morning, given the state of the world? I mean, there's so much that could just stomp us down and keep us, incapacitated. But yet, there's something in us, and it does for a lot of people. A lot of people don't have the tools to be able to move into, in spite of all of that, in our humanity, still find meaning and purpose in the world and in our lives. And so I'm circling back around to purpose. If we
Yep.
have purpose, meaningful purpose, then it is being in our, feeling the wounds, feeling the grief, and doing the work around it. There's so many wonderful ways now and modalities to do healing work, so that we don't have to anesthetize ourselves. We don't have to escape. We don't have to avoid. There are so many options, and it's no longer something that is, stigmatized, to be getting help and support in our wholeness, therapy. And so you
Working with a
probably
practitioner.
Yeah, well, and in the agape community, all those years, everyone had a practitioner, just like everybody has an electrician and a plumber and, everything else. It was a very recognized, essential part of attending to our wholeness.
Mm.
And so I think that the whole stigmatization of getting some help and getting support is very much dissipated. And I think it's good. We are here to help each other. We are here to walk with each other. One of the greatest stories I heard from the Bible is, which I am not a Bible scholar, but it was the idea that Jesus sent his disciples out 2 by 2, so that when one was discouraged, the other one would be there to help him along, and vice versa, or her along. So we're here to help each other. We're here to be here with each other. And for people that are lonely, I think that this is the time when we get past the pride or whatever that is of reaching out to each other and saying, I need some help. I need some support. I need to talk to someone. And this is the time, I think, when people can get out of their comfort zones, if they are willing to, and receive the great good that is already out there and that exists for us. I heard this wonderful analogy. It's just coming to me on a podcast of someone saying that for those who are thinking of this as a lockdown, as an imposed, solitude, she said, if we think about this world transforming and metamorphosizing, she said, I like to think of this time as a chrysalis, which of course is the stage from when the caterpillar turns into the butterfly. It's that stage in between where there is an encasement, And I loved that analogy of thinking of this as a chrysalis, as if there is a metamorphosis happening from what we were, who we are, who we were, to what we can be.
Hmm. You just unlocked a big mystery for me too, by the way. That's why the Mormons are out there, our Mormon brothers and sisters. That's why they go in twos. It just hit me when you said. I was like, but they're always in twos. Oh, Jesus told them to. Okay, here we go. But to your point, one of your favorite quotes by Albert Schweitzer, you said, "I don't know what your destiny will be, but one thing I know: the only ones among you who will be really happy are those who will have sought and found how to serve." That's to give yourself away. That's purpose, to serve each other.
Yeah.
Which gets us out of ourselves and our own drama as well. Go ahead.
Well, and the other part of that equation of being of service is also to learn how to be a good receiver and an acceptor as well. Because in order for someone to serve and to give, there has to be someone that is willing to receive. And that's where I think all of us could make improvements, is our ability to receive, our ability to accept. I see that all the time when I work with my clients, and there's things that they want, there's shifts, there's changes that they want to happen. And very often as we do the exploration work, I'll say, well, they'll share things that have been happening, and I'll say, well, isn't that something that you could accept? Sounds like something is already coming to you. Oh no, well, I don't want it that way. I don't want it out of, mercy, or I don't want someone to feel sorry for me, so we have to take those qualifications off of how we are receiving our good, and
Yes.
and let it show up in whatever way it does. And that to me is humility, which is another important quality. I most of the teachers and mentors that I've studied with, a quality that all of them have is a sense of humility. And when I'm listening to someone, or when I'm sitting at the feet of a master and taking it in, I will always be looking for that quality of humility. And I endeavor to work on that myself every day. And I feel that that's going back to what you said earlier, our humanity and our divinity, and that we are both. And the way that we, I think, stay available to the divine presence moving through us is through our humility, which doesn't negate our humanity. It says, wow, whatever I receive as divine guidance, I have a physical body to use to enact those things, to carry that out, to bring it forward, to be a blessing.
Yes. Humility to me, to reframe it in a way, another word that I think for me is important is appreciation. So if I'm humble, when I'm appreciating, like I see the benefit and the beauty of something, I can really appreciate it. And that to me equals humility as well. It's interesting you bring, I haven't thought about this in a while, but one of my first lessons about receiving, and actually what you're saying makes me think about the law of circulation as well. Like nature is cyclical, it circulates itself. And I'm always a big student of looking to nature for truth, really. But there's circulation that's happening everywhere, and circulation keeps life fresh and new and alive. But when I was back when the Seattle Supersonics were a basketball team, I was probably, 7, 8 years old. I was there with my mom, my brother, and my sister, and there was a guy sitting behind us. And he was kind of, if you're at a sporting event, you kind of get to know the folks that are sitting around you over the course of the thing. And at one point, I think it was later on in the game, he took a $20 bill out of his wallet and he just said, "Here, take it." And I said, and I remember this so vividly. I said, I can't take that. And he took it back and he put it in his wallet. And then my mom talked to me about it. And I turned around and said, "Okay, I'll take it now." He said, "Nope." Nope, not now. I will always remember that. You know, when life offers you something, receive. And what a blessing that is. We can be better receivers of our good, can't we?
Yes.
Always. Better givers and better receivers. It's a practice. That is a spiritual practice. So, because sometimes we're closed off to it. Sometimes we get selfish. It happens to everybody. But then the practice is to how often can I stay awake?
Yes.
How often? Yeah, can I stay awake? How is your? We're getting toward the top of the hour. These things go by quickly here. But just as far as your personal walk, you've been a teacher for so long. Is it in your teaching and your own spiritual practice that you navigate your own humanity as well? I think sometimes teachers can fall into teaching so much that they forget to do their own work, that they just teach. They just, it becomes rote almost. It becomes, I know I've fallen into that over the course of my career. And then I have to, something wakes me up and I say, "Whoa, Charles, your first call is to practice." And you teach from that. What's your walk with that? How do you navigate your own? We talked about wounding and things like that. Have you noticed your wounds soften and you become more expanded and extended over the course of your life? I mean, I'm sure you have, but how does that show up?
Oh, wow. I'm thinking of so many different directions to go in.
Well, we've got 7 minutes, so we might need to do it.
Focus. I would say I think of my role as a teacher as the word educate means to draw forth from, not to pour into. So I think of my role as an educator, and I started out on this path, my dharma as an educator, teaching high school before I ever got into my spiritual studies and became a teacher in this arena. And I really come to it with the idea of I'm learning from my students. What can I learn from my students? I have something to bring, and I always say to my clients and my students, we're in spiritual partnership together. Every person I meet with over all these 30 years, over 10,000, and the reason I know how many people is I have a calendar that I've kept for the last 40 years of my life. I know exactly what I've been doing, who I've met with, but that we're in spiritual partnership together, whether it's a student, whether it's a client, and that it's a mutuality of sharing that's going on there. I become a better teacher. I become a better practitioner with every class I teach, every client that I meet with. And I guess to me, it's important to maintain my own inner practice so that I stay available as an opening for divine wisdom. And I know that's true when I hear things coming out of my mouth that I really never thought of before. I'm listening to some interesting things as they're being said through me, and I know that happens with you when you're giving your Sunday messages. I've heard the power speak through you many times, and I feel that as long as you say, like, we're doing our inner work, that we keep those channels open. I think of like antenna, like I always kind of want to keep those antenna tuned in to the divine. And the way I keep my teaching fresh is I'm always learning. I have the proverbial stack of books. I've been listening to some phenomenal teachers I've never been exposed to before this time. Charles Eisenstein. Just, you know, amazing teachers that are out there in terms of helping us navigate our way into this new world and understanding things that, you know, were beyond my scope of awareness. And I'm really just infusing myself. And this year, next in 2 weeks, when I start teaching my next group of online practitioner students for Centers for Spiritual Living, boy, they are going to get stuff that the last 17 years of teaching practitioners, because I'm learning. I have a whole repository of information, of connecting dots, of synthesizing things in a new way, and that's what keeps teaching fresh for me. My battery.
Hello. Is that an Amber Alert?
Sorry, my battery came undone. Okay. Anyway, so that's how I keep things fresh as a teacher, and I'm always learning. I'm always now, of course, and even before now, I've been very drawn to studying grief and the grieving process, which started before my son died. It's been people that I've been working with, everyone, especially getting older. And it really started when my father passed away 2 years ago, who was like one of the most important people in my life. He was my greatest champion, and it just left such a void in my life and stirred up so many family dynamics that were like, what? And so I started studying because I wanted to have stuff to bring to my clients and my students about grief. And now the whole world needs ways of navigating through grief.
Yeah. Well, thank you for continuing to do your part as an emissary, as a beholder. You're an awesome beholder. That's Linda Watson. I'm going to share your email address. Is that okay?
Yes, please.
If folks want to reach out to you, follow up, anything like that, want to work with you, lindajoy99@aol.com.
I know everybody can laugh. I still have AOL.
Hey, you still get your emails, right? Can you send and receive?
Well, you know what? That's on every piece of literature I've put out for the last 30 years. And I do get calls from people who say, hey, I found this on a pile in my office, you know, that I got 10 years ago.
Well, does it still show when a mail shows up? Does it still say you've got mail?
No, that's all different now. Okay. I also have a Gmail account. I'm not totally living in the land of AOL.
Well, you've got Zoom. We know that. So, amen.
Hey, I was teaching on Zoom 8 years ago, before anybody heard of it.
Love it. Love it. Linda Joy, LINDAJOY 99, the number 99, lindajoy99@aol.com. You can reach out to her if you want. I'm so grateful for you being here. Thanks for sharing with us. And I know that, you know, when things start to loosen up, as I shared with you recently, I'm excited to have you come out and do some things with our practitioners as well. And we'll explore those opportunities as they present themselves. So
I can tell you that even in this time, I have done a Leadership Council board retreat in Zoom for a center on the East Coast. So anything can be done on Zoom now.
Yes, it can. Yes, it can. Anything, and lots of things are done on Zoom. Right?
Yes.
All right, I'm just going to share a couple of announcements here, Linda, and then I'm going to come back and formally say goodbye to you. Okay. So that's Linda Watson, ladies and gentlemen. I'm blessed and humbled to call her friend, and so grateful for her time this morning. Tomorrow, it's Life on Love with me at 10 o'clock. We're going to share some more good stuff. A week from Friday, teasing this a little bit, we're going to play a little game called Where in the World is Dr. Joe Hooper? Where in the world is Dr. Joe Hooper? We're going to do our best to track him down while he's still on sabbatical. That's a week from tomorrow, not tomorrow, but a week from tomorrow. I've got permission to hunt him down and find out how he is, what he's learned from his sabbatical, how his life is, and we're going to find out where in the world he is. Hopefully, maybe he'll share it with us, maybe he won't, but it'll be fun. Let's see. Then Saturday, we've got another meditation coming to you. Sunday service is coming to you in your inbox early Sunday morning. And then next week, we've got another extraordinary lineup of, I got to get better. Where's my schedule? Is it right over here? Let's see. I want to share with you next week who's going to be around. All right, here we go. On Monday, it's my good friend, a Los Angeles musician. His name is Ted Russell Camp. He's performed all over the world. He's done tours. He's been to Japan, Europe. He's an extraordinary musician. We're going to do a concert and conversation. I'll be here in Coachella Valley. He'll be in Los Angeles, but he can play the stand-up bass. That sucker's not easy to play. He plays guitar. I mean, he's just an extraordinary musician. And I've known him for, geez, I don't know, maybe 25 years. He's an awesome human being. So that's Monday at 10. Tuesday, me and Jafon continue the book study. Wednesday, the Sensational Six. And then Thursday, the 24th, is part 2 with Harold Payne. And I encourage you to go back through our YouTube archives and look for the first episode, first program that I did with Harold Payne. Awesome guy, makes up songs on the spot. Another extraordinary musician. So we've got some great music coming up next week as well. And then, of course, Where in the World is Dr. Joe Hooper on Friday? That's next Friday. We continue to appreciate your financial good as you share with the community that continues to sustain us and support us as we move through this time. Obviously, we're so stoked to get back together when we do. And right now, we are where we are. And so there are plenty of ways for you to give. I know there's a link that's very clear right now for you that you can share. You can donate through our website. You can call into the office, mail in, et cetera, et cetera. So many different ways in this day and age. So we appreciate all of that. Linda Watson, thank you so very much for being with us, sharing with us. Our entire community embraces your family and heart as you continue to walk through this process with the loss of your son. We just know that I'm knowing that the peace that brings understanding and the peace that passes understanding is yours and your family's now. And so I'm with you. Have a wonderful day. Any final word you want to share with all of us?
Yes, I do. I want all of you to keep tuning in to Reverend Charles and his ministry. He's a masterful minister. He's bringing the new wave of consciousness, of new thought out into the world. So keep tuning in and following what he's doing.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, and we want you to share with your friends as well and subscribe to our YouTube page as we continue to grow our platform here. All right, everybody. Much peace, much love. Linda, have an extraordinary Thursday. Much love to your family. Give Larissa a hug for me and that baby. Beautiful. Everybody, make it the best day ever. Peace and love.